Well, good morning again. Let's everybody just take a deep breath. That's more for me than you. Well, I was talking with someone this morning about we really don't have any seasons out here, but we do. I mean, this is springtime, right? It's Easter Sunday, and we think about spring. We think about Easter bonnets, as I talked about earlier, probably more when we were younger. But we also think about renewal, rebirth. Because we see that all around us. New sprouts, new trees, young trees, flowers, all of that. And so it's so important for us to acknowledge that part within us. Because as we move along our journey, there's a lot of things that we come across on our path. And some of those things we may need to renew or give rebirth to. And I'm not talking about reinventing ourselves, because I don't believe we do that. I believe we expand. Do you agree with that? We just expand into more of who we are. And so what we were talking about, Don read about transformation. Transformation is really an interesting concept because there's so much involved in that. And we are actually, as the reading said, we are transforming something every day, whether we're aware of it or not. Hopefully we become more aware. As I was talking in our group yesterday about divine order, the more conscious we become, the more we see our subconscious moving as we're expressing our lives. And so we have many ways, meditation is one way we can activate that spirit within us, that Christ consciousness, speaking of Jesus. Jesus, the man, had this consciousness that came from deep within him, that God presence, that divine presence that is available to all of us. It isn't just a chosen few. We all know this, right? But how do we really activate that presence? Meditation is one way, of course. But sometimes we can meditate and we allow that to take us into that place, that space of unity, that place of oneness, that place of love, that calm and peace. And that's wonderful. And I think doing meditations every morning helps set the tone for that. But I also want to remind us, because it's Easter, remember Jesus, the man with his Christ consciousness, Jesus Christ, was buried in the tomb after he died. And so, because we're metaphysicians, we look at everything. What significance does that have in our lives? If you were here for the meditation this morning, I took you into the forest where it was dark. And I encouraged us to recognize that in the darkness, there's such beauty, even if we can't see it all. We've all heard of the dark night of the soul. I want to remind us, remind us that life itself, whether it be human, animal, plant, begins in the dark. And it also develops in the dark, like the lotus flower. Like before we were born, we are in the womb. We can't see anything. It's dark, but we are growing and we're developing until we move into the light. And so the significance of Jesus going into the tomb or being buried in the tomb was he was in the darkness. to recharge himself, to be reborn. And he was resurrected. See, the resurrection means something to us too. Because remember, within us is that God presence, and everything we ever need is within us. It's not out there somewhere. And so part of the resurrection is about bringing forward that which is already a part of us, a part of our wholeness. That part we may want to transform. Because remember, we are already perfect, whole, and complete. And I know I was asked, well, what does that mean to you? I thought of an example of transformation. I remember our grandson, and maybe some of you remember kids having these transformers. You remember those transformers? Those robot-like things? And it's one thing, but you can change it into so many different things. They're kind of cool, really. Well, that's us. We have that within us to expand, to transform. And sometimes we need to go into the darkness in order for that to happen. Meaning sometimes if we want to change something or transform something in our life, we need to look at what is holding us back. Remember, in front of the tomb there was a stone that was rolled back, rolled aside to show what was inside the tomb. We can do the same thing. We need to remove that block or that stone from our higher self, from that divine God presence within us. And when we are in those situations, when we enter the darkness, this is where we can also recharge so that we can express fully more of who we are in our own truth. And so when the darkness too, when we go in there, it has to do, the tomb itself has to do with divine consciousness, our Christ consciousness, higher consciousness. That darkness, even though dark kind of sounds, it's dark in our higher consciousness, but that is where we really get within ourselves in the dark and focus and just really meditate and get in touch with who we are. And so what we do then is, remember, Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. That is significant because the 3 days is simply about the 3 movements of the mind in order to overcome whatever it is we want to overcome or change or transform. So the first thing is, when we go into the darkness, to be humble, non-resistant. Now that's an interesting part, because when we don't listen to our higher self, which I've done a time or two, we know how to do this thing. But see, when we really want that kind of help that we have within ourselves, we need to let go of that. We need to be humble, like we know nothing. And we need to not resist. And sometimes that's difficult. And I say that because I resisted being a minister for about 3 years, for my own whatever reasons. And so it takes what it takes, but when we want to really move forward on our journey, change something that is blocking us, when we see that we're stuck, sometimes we get stuck, don't we? We just get stuck. We don't know what to do. So the next step then would be, the second day, or the next step would be, we are open and receptive to what God has to share with us, what our higher self is guiding us to do or to be. I say be because when we allow ourselves to just be in that dark space, we will be guided as to what to do. That is more from the heart. See, much of what we do in life is from the mind. And I'm not saying the mind is wrong, but it's the tangible stuff, the things we can see. We're comfortable with that. We need to see evidence. But the key is to not know and watch what happens. We will be guided and directed into places you would have never thought you would go. You will receive things you never thought were possible, because what happens is you begin to live in the world or the realm of possibilities. But we need to be in that space of humility, non-resistance, open and receptive to that higher self, our higher presence, to God. We need to be present, available, without outlining, without telling God, this is what I want. And then the third day, or the third step, would simply be integrating what we have received into our entire being, activating it, doing something, being something, allowing ourselves to, and just to be guided into that path, that direction. Our intuition kicks in. Are we listening to it? That's part of the process. And remember, being in the darkness is a new space in which we create. We are highly creative beings. And remember, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So integrating all of that, because our bodies are the vehicle through which our spirit moves. So we need to allow that. We need to be present for that. We need to be in that space where what we are to do, or what we are to do with any situation, because sometimes when we want something, many times we have to give up something. You know, there are people who practice Lent for 40 days. They give up something that they really like. And that's significant because these are all the things. Can you imagine giving up something that doesn't work for us any longer for 40 days? The 40 days that Jesus walked in the wilderness is why the fasting goes on for 40 days, the Lent. I remember hearing about Lent when I was a young girl and what people were giving up. So it's not a sacrifice, it's a way of cleansing. Fasting is about cleansing, cleaning out the stuff that we don't need anymore. Why? Because it's keeping us from something even greater. Remember, we're on a journey, and every step takes us forward. Every step is significant. And so when we're mindful and aware of what's going on, we're going to recognize when those changes happen. But remember, we have to be open and receptive to that. We have to be willing. God, use me. Whatever way. It doesn't have to be, like I always say, it doesn't have to be something as grandiose as what Oprah does. Every one of us is important. And every one of us makes a difference. Every one of us here is making a difference, creating this beautiful space, creating this energy that is going to stay with us for the rest of the day, if not longer. And so keeping that in mind, going into the darkness, there's this beautiful ceremony, and I know many of you are familiar with it. It's the White Stone Ceremony, which is where we are given a white stone, and we'll do that in just a few minutes, and write down, once we go into the tomb, what it is Spirit or God has us to be, guiding us through a word or a name, and we will write that down. And again, this white stone is really a metaphor for what we have inside. And the reason this white stone ceremony came about, the history behind that, because one of the things that's so important in this journey is we want to be free. We want to be free of whatever it is holding us back. And so back in Jesus' day, or the Roman day, when a prisoner was freed, when he was let out of prison, he was given a white stone, which meant that he was free to go and recreate his life, do whatever he wanted to do. And he was also protected by having that stone, because they had to carry it with them at all times. But isn't that wonderful that they were acknowledged in that way, to have that item, that significant stone, to help their own satisfaction or their own love, and say, wow, look at this, I am now free. And that is us. We want to be free to do whatever we want to do, right? Yes? We want to make our own choices. We want to be free from that old stuff that is holding us back. I know I do. How about you? Yes. And I know sometimes it's hard to let go of that old stuff because we're used to it. We know what that looks like, but over here, I don't know what that looks like. We like that comfort zone, right? We like that be in our whatever is familiar to us. But I'm inviting all of us to trust in that presence within us. How many of you have gotten a message or an intuitive message to do something or to go somewhere, and you didn't do it, only to find out later, man, I should have done that. Right? Am I alone? No. But see, that is part of our human nature. And I'm not, I believe in being gentle with ourselves. We just said, okay, well, I can make another choice later. Maybe I'll listen next time. Maybe. But see, when we truly engage, when we really connect with that God presence within us and really have faith in that and trust it, it will take us a long way. And so we're going to do this active meditation, which is the white stone ceremony. And I invite Kathy and Don to pass out the white stone to all of you. And as you are receiving these stones, I want you to put it in your hands, and I would like to have you look at them and really get a feel see how they feel in your hand. Put it next to your heart. Put your energy all in it. Rocks have a vibration too. You might feel the vibration of the rock. Get really familiar with that stone, because that rock, that is going to be yours. I know many of you have told me that you still have the ones from past Easters. Yes. Are you feeling that rock? Do you feel the energy? You putting your energy on it? And after everyone has a stone, I'm going to take you into a meditation, into the dark. After which, when I have you come out, I will prompt you when you can write the word or name that came through. Thank you. All right.
Each table has one marking pen. You'll have to pass it around. So we'll just
In the basket.
in the basket or on the table.
All right. So we're going to move into our meditation now, and I really would love it if you hold on to your stone, because this stone is going to talk to you. So let's move into that space, closing your eyes so we can see with our third eye. And allow yourself to feel that chair again, consciously, and allow the music to take you into that calm, peaceful state of mind and heart. And so picture yourself going back to your house, going through the front door or the back door, whichever way you enter your house. And go to your room, go to the room where you can just sit in the dark and be by yourself. That place where you feel comfortable. Closing the door, closing any curtains or drapes, and find that comfortable chair, sofa, bed, and just allow yourself to sit in that space. And the only thing you hear is just the music. Closing your eyes, feeling the darkness, and simply knowing that something beautiful is unfolding right through you. Simply breathe in and out. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, God is. Say that to yourself silently. I am. God is. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, God is. I am. God is. I am. God is. I am. is. I am. God is. Feel the vibration of those words. Feel the stone in your hand. Vibrating. Feel your heart. As you feel your heart, you feel humble. Allowing. No resistance. You just allow yourself to be in that space you have created for yourself. Feel everything just, any thoughts just leaving you. Feel the humility. Feel yourself letting go and non-resistant. And now, feel yourself opening up. Opening up, opening. Ready to receive. And in this space of being open and receptive, I invite you to do just that, allowing the music to take you even deeper into that space. Feel the energy of what's happening. Do you hear something talking to you? Do you feel something forming in your heart and your mind? Allow it. Allow it. Listen. Feel. feel it bubbling up, the word or name to guide you forward. Allow it. Do you hear the whisper? Allow it. Embrace it. When you are ready, when you have received, I invite you to, in your mind's eye, stand up from wherever you were sitting, walk to the door, open it, see the light, remembering the message, the word, the name you received. And when you are ready, I invite you to write that name, that word, onto your stone, knowing that it is yours, guidance you received from your Christ consciousness. And after you have written on your stone, I want you to look at it. Look at it with new eyes. Love it. Embrace it. Accept it for what it is, knowing that it came from love. I know that sometimes, having done this before, we may not always have the understanding of what we have written down because it was Spirit, God moving through you. But hold it anyway. Look at it every day if that's possible, and it will unfold. The meaning will unfold over time if we allow it. Have it be meaningful. Put it in a place where you could see it, because it represents your Christ consciousness, that white stone within us. For as we transform something in our lives, we are contributing to the greater good and well-being of us all on the planet, because that vibrant energy goes into the ethers. So not only are we blessed, we are a blessing. Think of yourself as that. I am a blessing. And so as we kind of absorb or take in what we just went through, that divine place that we have gone into, knowing that divine order is always present, and it is present through us right now. So keep that in mind. Hold your stone. Place it on your heart if you wish. And we'll ask Ed to sing our next song, Blessing of the World.